Welcome back to Talk of the Town with Steve Bakken on Super Talk 1270.
You're tuned to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270. I'm your host, Steve Bakken. This hour of the program brought to you by Mandan Sporting Goods, as well as Dvorak Motors, for your family for a lifetime from the View Community Credit Union Studios. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, $10K for a rainy day. Your chance to enter the code word and win up to $10,000, maybe a couple tanks of gas. What that might get you. Maybe pay your mortgage, maybe a vacation, go someplace nice, although the price of airline tickets right now, you might need $10,000 for the airline tickets as well. We're talking with Carol Two Eagle coming into the studio this morning. Carol, welcome.
Thank you.
Strong, secure, single men's housing cooperative. That's what you're here with. And give us a little rundown. What does that mean? Strong, secure, single men's housing cooperative. New initiative in the community?
Yeah, it's visionary. We've searched all over on the internet, and there's nothing else like it in the world that we can find for dealing with the housing problems of men who are discriminated against by landlords. It doesn't seem to matter that it's illegal anywhere, especially here, I hate to say. And men who've been behind the iron door, Native men with ADA-covered health problems, custodial fathers. And so that's our target population. Not too long ago, I saw a graph that said that more than 400 men just in the Bismarck area were having this difficulty. So we're looking to find housing for 16 of them. And actually, we have space for 3 custodial fathers with up to 3 children each. And 2 of those spaces are already taken. And basically, we're alcohol and drug free, including prescription drugs. It's to give a secure home to people who are striving to build a strong, secure new life. You can't do that if you constantly feel like you're living in a foxhole waiting for the next incoming, and especially if it's landlord harassment. And there's a lot of it. I have business friends who say, well, I rent property, but I don't want to rent to guys who've been in because they're just going to do it again and again and again. And there are actually legislators who have stood on the floor of the House and Senate and said these people are flawed and they cannot learn, so we have to keep them under our thumb forever. That made me so mad, my hair nearly stood on end. We're all flawed, and of course they can learn. Flatworms can learn, and these are human beings. So if you think I get more than a tad hot about this, you're right. I do. It's disgusting, and it's wrong, and it needs fixing. And I was asked by men who were living in a shelter, and their rights are being violated to some degree, why they didn't do something about it. And they said this was their last resort before going back under trees, and they weren't going to do it. And they said, but you know how. You have a reputation for pulling rabbits out of hats, and I thought completely undeserved. But they said, would you try? And this is the result. So I've got some men who have volunteered to be on the board. We're looking to replace one of them because he heads a department in a large business around here, and he's just swamped, and he really needs replacing. He's just meeting himself, coming and going. But we've put this together, and now we're seeking support, money always. We've done this on next to nothing, but that's our objective.
This past Sunday at church, I actually had an opportunity. Eddie McLaughlin was speaking and spoke to some of these points from those that are coming out after being incarcerated. He runs the prison fellowship at the North Dakota State Prison here. And Eddie was speaking about some of the things that he went through, his testimony with his life, and that story of redemption. He was in a very difficult position and wound up getting a second chance, and housing and some of the other things. What do you say? 4,400 barriers to somebody coming out of prison getting back into society.
Yep.
And it was mind blowing that you go to prison, you serve your time, you pay your debt to society. but then you can't reenter society. And some of those barriers are some of the ones that you're speaking about.
Yeah. And I stayed in the shelter in 2020 for 5 months, and I spent the entire time collecting data. And the whole situation just is ridiculous. It's offensive, and insulting and demeaning. And it's no wonder that a lot of these men end up back in, because they get the feeling that they're completely alone. And even if some organization or person is willing to help them with finances to get into an apartment, they have to find a landlord who will accept them. We do background checks, but let's say that somebody has a drinking problem and they're really working at it. We would probably accept them, because one thing I know, I was raised by 2 strong grandmothers and 11 ex-military uncles. And I know for a fact that if there's anything that can make a major difference in someone's life, it's a focus group of men. Because, look at the Green Bay Packers. They were nothing. And Vince Lombardi made them how many times world champions? And he did it with a poem. And it said, yeah. And it said, if you think you can't do a thing, you're right. You can't. But somebody else can, and they will. If you think you're not good enough or strong enough or fast enough, you're right. You aren't. But somebody else will believe they are, and they will. In life, as in sports, the race goes not to the stronger, swifter, or better man. It goes to the man who believes he can. And that's what this is about.
Absolutely.
So here we'd have 16 men and me. I'm one of the guys. I'm just not one of the gay guys. And sorry. Not terribly. But anyway. And, I do better with counseling men than with women. And so my focus is on them, helping them. And these days, single men really seem to get it in the neck. They really do get the shaft instead of any mine. And so we found a building. We have a letter of intent. We need to buy this building, though, because if we lease, we can only lease for 2 years. And then we'd have to move everything. And I think this would completely obstruct any progress these men might make. But,
you mentioned the men's side of things, and within the community, we've got a lot of nonprofits that do a lot of great work in a lot of different spaces. But over my conversations over the last several years, that's one of the places that things have fallen through the crack is single men, especially on the custodial fathers side.
Yes.
We've got a lot of short-term homeless facilities for single mothers with kids, and getting out of abuse situations or just needing a hand up. We've got all those things in place, but custodial fathers, there hasn't been a place, and there isn't a place for a single father with kids to go that's safe and secure. That's one of the things that's fallen through the cracks in the community. Yep,
and our two of our 3 spaces are taken. Each man has 3 children. They're both native, so that's a strike against them around here often. Sad but true. And the one has never been in jail. He's never been a drinker, a doper, or an abuser of any kind. But he got custody of his children, but he can't find a place to live. And so he took one of these spaces, and he's on our board. The other man hasn't been in jail in 10 years. He's not a drinker or a doper or an abuser, and he got custody of his children in a divorce. But for whatever reason, both these men are constantly, they say, harassed and observed, stalked by social workers. And the second man they're both working and stockpiling money, and they still can't find a place. So the second man took a space with us. We have not accepted any money from either of these men, but we did sign a letter of intent with both of them. And the second guy said one day his babysitter just stiffed him. She didn't show. She didn't anything. He couldn't find anybody. He said he had to go to work. He told the kids to stay indoors. He said, don't open the door for anybody. He came home. His children were gone. Social workers had somehow found out, gotten in, and taken them. And he said he about lost his mind trying to find his kids and get them back. There's no excuse for that kind of thing. And at least in the cooperative, there will always be somebody there to, help with the children and do whatever needs doing. So that is not going to be a problem. We've worked out all the details with things like security cameras are outside, because I think inside makes them actually feel less secure. Every man gets a private room with a lock on the door and his own key. Exterior doors lock when they close. We have motion-activated floodlights. Everything. Each man can decorate his own room any way he wants, and we don't allow any proselytizing or religious discussions, because that says to me it's the same kind of thing as the Irish went through for 700 foolish years, arguing over whose version of Christianity was better, or is it Muslim, or in my case, I'm Lakota traditional. I carry a pipe, and the pipe is holy. That makes me a spiritual guide. I think it's a pointless set of arguments, and so we just don't allow that. You want to talk about that? Go somewhere else. So, we worked out most of the details, but it's all oriented to the problems that we know that single men are having. And frankly, I don't think they deserve them. And but nobody else, everybody else looks at rent. We looked at housing cooperatives so that it's people cooperating, working together to solve their problems.
We're talking with Carol Two-Eagle, Strong Secure Single Men's Housing Cooperative. When we come back from the break, we'll find out more about that. And we do have a need within the community, and we'll find out what they're doing towards that need with the Strong Secure Single Men's Housing Cooperative. I'm Steve Bakken. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270. This hour of the program brought to you by Hit Inc. Independence, Dignity, Respect. Hit Inc., as well as Mandan Sporting Goods. Go see Brandon over at Mandan Sporting Goods on Main in Mandan. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Talk of the Town.
Talk 1270.
Talk of the Town with Steve Bakken on Super Talk 1270.
You're tuned to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270. Coming up shortly, your chance for $10,000. $10K for a rainy day. Another code word coming up at the bottom of the hour on Super Talk 1270. This hour of the program brought to you by Mandan Sporting Goods, as well as Big Boy. Just get in line. It moves fast. Big Boy. I'm Steve Bakken, your host on Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270. And in the studio with us this morning, Carol Two-Eagle. She's working on the Strong Secure Single Men's Housing Cooperative. A lot of men displaced, maybe not have a place to go. We see that quite often with custodial fathers, those coming out of prison. There's been a gap in homelessness on the men's side of things, and Carol and her group are working on some of those initiatives to try to remedy those situations. We do have a great deal of support in other avenues for custodial women, custodial parents that, we even have a shortage of families. In a lot of cases, if a family's homeless, there's a place for the mom and the kids. There's not a place for the dad to be with the family in a lot of cases. Right. And that's one of the things that we have a gap in our community for. So Carol Two-Eagle, and she is working on filling that void with the Strong Secure Single Men's Housing Cooperative. Carol, tell us a little bit more about the cooperative and how that's set up, because you've got some events coming up. People can get involved. It's giving those men that don't have a place to live a voice.
It does. It gives, members in a housing co-op are not renting. They own a piece of the cooperative. And so that gives them advantages they don't have with rent, such as tax deductions. In this case, they also have a say in who their neighbors are. And so the first men in get to vote on incoming applicants. And they can guide the board, as well as having, seniority, if you will. When you pay your membership cost, you own that for life, and then every month there is a maintenance share fee, which we think will be under $300 a month. it's cost effective, extremely. And like I said, every man has his own room with a lock on the door. You can lock the world out if you need to, if you want to. And there are 2 common rooms, 2 kitchens, 5 bathrooms. We have 2 of them for sure will have ADA compliant showers. We're not sure about the 3rd one because we'd have to remove a wall, and we're just not sure we want to do it. But I'm an ADA compliance consultant. I'm the first one in North Dakota, and so far I'm the only one.
Really?
That happened during the 2021 session. I was arguing on an ADA compliance bill. I'm the culprit for getting new public entrance to the building, and the money had been there for several years, and nobody could get the legislators who were sitting on it to release it. So I went in and I guilt tripped them. I did. I said,
sometimes a little of that goes a long way.
It did. I said, you have constituents who are handicapped. I hate the word disabled because it focuses on what you cannot do instead of what you can. I don't care what I can't do so much as I care what I can, which is a lot. And other people are the same way. And I said, but you have constituents who are handicapped and they vote and they have friends and relatives who vote. What do you think they'd do if they found out that you don't care about them, that you think they're not even human or second class or something like that? I said, I'm not the only one who might make that noise. There are lots of people sitting behind me here in this room. Boy, that money was released and nothing flat.
Made a lot of great changes too.
It did, and I'm really pleased. So in 2021, I was arguing on the bill to upgrade the inside of the building, and I used the same argument because there was somebody there who said, well, it's a nice idea to bring the building up to 11 years behind the requirements of the time. And I said, who's guiding you with the ADA compliance? And I got all these blank deer in the headlights stares. So I went looking online, and I found a major university that offered an online class of 40 hours. And I persuaded them to let me do it in 20 hours because my days run 16 hours every day, 7 days a week. And I really pushed on it, and I did. I got it. And so I went back and I pointed this out to them. And I said, it's a federal felony to refuse to accommodate. 10 years behind the iron door. Gee, I wonder what the activists would do with that. Bang, we had $750,000.
And why it makes such a difference is it's the quality of life. It really does make a huge difference. So for the Strong, Secure, Single Men's Housing Cooperative, you guys have a meeting coming up. You're having regular meetings, and one's coming up on Saturday, April 23rd, 2:30 p.m. at the Bismarck Veterans Memorial Public Library in one of the study rooms. So what would people expect if they showed up at that meeting?
Well, they'd expect to be asked to give us their thoughts. Have we missed anything? Is there something else we need to add to this? Things they'd like to see and things they don't want to see. And what we'll tell them more about what we've done and what we have available and the way things need to go in our view, and so that we can build this. After all, it's about cooperating. Okichiapi, helping each other in Lakota. That's the closest to cooperate that I can think of in my language. And when we can get a meeting room in the front half of the building, then we have coffee and snacks or food of some kind. Last week we had fry bread. But in the study rooms they don't allow that, so this time we're going to have to run without. Everybody's got to suffer a little, I guess. But, it's an opportunity for people who feel they don't have a voice to have a voice. And so we've been having these meetings, and we want people to show up.
So who would you expect to show up at this meeting?
We've had guys who are living in their cars. Now, to me, if you have an address and you've still got your car or your pickup, you're not homeless, actually. You've got a mobile home. And they come to us and they say, one man in particular, this really disturbed me. He said, I'm always getting arrested for being aggressive And I don't understand that. He said, I don't see how I am. He said, can you help me? And I said, yeah. And he said, really? And I said, yeah. And he said, I'll be back. And he's been back. I don't understand how somebody doesn't see that, or I didn't, but now I do after, mentoring this man for a while. But we hear that sort of thing. We hear the stories like I told you about the man who said that the social workers found out about his children and stole them. He said it about drove him insane. And they come and hunt me up because I've moved my office. I have an official office in Wilton, but there's not much activity there, so I've moved my actual office down to the Bismarck Library. And I spend a great deal of time there. And people see the pickup. It's purple and blue, and it has our flyer on the back on the whole tailgate. And they come and find me. And they tell me what they need help with. In February, there was a man who was instantly evicted from the shelter because the shelter supervisor refused to listen to him at all. She said, women complained. You're out of here. You're out of here. It was 22 below. I think that's outrageous.
Carol, the best place to get a hold of you is at the library?
Yeah, actually it is.
Okay.
Yeah, and to go on the website, we have a website. It's on all our flyers. Our flyers are hanging in some of the Dans and the Cashwises and the library entry. It's a very long website name. If you want to give it, Steve, please do.
Strong, secure, single men's housing cooperative .myfree.website.
Yeah, with a dash between each word except where you said dots.
Yes. So either check it out online or track down Carol Two Eagle at the Bismarck Public Library, the Veterans Memorial Public Library, coming up on Saturday, April 23rd, 2:30 p.m., Study Room 1, that's downstairs in the back. They're going to be having a meeting. You can check her out there or just look for the truck and track down Carol at the library.
I'm afraid so.
Carol, thanks for coming in and bringing up some great points on a topic that doesn't get enough recognition here in North Dakota. Men who may be in that homeless situation and just don't have the resources like other portions of the community for homelessness to address some of the homeless concerns. I'm Steve Bakken. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.